morning, everyone. Okay, so the recent past has been all up to multi-channel marketing that was not really user-centric, was basically channel-centric, and we were trying to push messages along multiple channels. What you have heard so far is a brilliant, very large community growing fast in China, and a great, great first mover, as Univadis was a first mover into 1.0 space, into 2.0 space. I'll talk about how these things are seen from the backstage of the communication agency that has to deal with these new needs and new opportunities from a professional perspective. Again, we are moving from the recent past in the multi-channel marketing was essentially segmented. We were trying to calibrate the message to what we perceived that the audience would have need, and to some extent with some insight generation, to a complete different game, which is dictated by the complete different behavior and needs of the audience we are talking to. Today, it's really audience-driven, and the audience has characteristics that are completely new from the past. Or I should say better, those needs and characteristics of the audience have been always there. Now we can take advantage of that. We can listen more, we can understand more, we can parse this data, and so model our engagement strategies in a much more effective way. The audience, as all of us, have complete different expectations when it comes to communication or medical education these days. You heard about peer-to-peer needs. There's a lot of need about calibration, so the right amount of information at the moment I need them, and at the pace I'm prepared and willing to, I would say, uptake. There's much more empowerment, so it's a complete multi-way communication. It's no longer one way. The context is extremely important. It was not so important some time ago because we had largely an interaction through the web browser on the screen of the computer. Today, we saw the glasses, we have a phone, iPad, we are car connected, and this changes a lot because it means the context, what we are doing, the screen we have is really dictating which kind of interaction and which level of engagement we are ready to concede to the brand or the institution that is trying to engage with us. And this, of course, goes into the social dimension, which is the integration anywhere, anytime, any screen of multiple different channels, but designed around my own needs and the needs of the community I'm immersed into. So it's we are almost going towards a kind of a group consumption of the engagement versus a kind of linear driven by the single individual interacting with one screen at a specific time in the day for one channel. So that's a big headache for us from a agency perspective because we have to deal with a number of variables as never before. There are companies that were born around this but are constantly adapting to these changes. And I'll walk you through last few charts to show the behind the scenes. So the first thing is that the paradigm of communication for ages since 1850 has been big idea art, the content, the copywriting, and that was it. Then, of course, we had the media for the delivery was one directional. Today, code, which is everything you can imagine, data, programming, technology, ugly things years ago for advertising or communication professionals, now have the same exact dignity as the big idea, the creativity, and the content. Because really, great content without super coding doesn't get through, and vice versa. So these three things are now basically important the same in our industry. And this is a huge change because it's entirely new to the industry and has been picking up in the last really few years. So even from a career development is extremely interesting because there's a lot of space and there are a lot of unmet needs. So when I speak to young talents, I encourage a lot to go into technology, to go into communication, because probably that's now as big avenue as basically the creative side of the equation. Okay. The way we are tackling at Razorfish Healthware, the technology side of it is what we are calling experiential technology, and is a sort of a convergence between few different things. First, the user centricity, and the diagram doesn't show a flow because there's no longer flow. All are important at the same. The user is absolutely crucial because everything is user-centric and designed around the user. To do this, you need proper technologies because otherwise you cannot measure, you cannot calibrate, you cannot do the precision marketing approach that we reviewed in the beginning of this panel. So technology is massively important with everything that comes with it, data, big data, small data, etc. The experience is the perfect marriage between the beautiful creativity, that great video, that great key visual, that great sound, but provided you can see it. So the technology comes back into the place, and of course has to be something that connects with the audience. So that's why the user centricity drives with the technology and massive creativity and cutting-edge creativity, what is the experience. And finally, we are focusing a lot on what we call business transformation. Denise alluded to this before when talking with Thibaut on what Univadis is doing so great. That's a business transformation thing. The question was about how that started. There were workshops, and I can only imagine the fights internally to motivate why a community, why we do this on Facebook, you know, and all the simplification that tend to happen in established industries. Whereas the pharma industry is undergoing slowly but accelerating into massive transformation because healthcare, as we all know, because we are here this morning, will change as travel industry has changed, as finance industry has changed, will be disrupted to some extent from digital. So all the players will need to take this into account. And that's why pharma, but even insurance companies, etc., will go through a massive business transformation process, which will probably be driven by the impact and the convergence of technology with healthcare. And that's why we ultimately think that engagement is the ultimate strategy. The complex and delicate and to some extent still to be tested and tried and learned mechanic between meaningful insights, so what the audience really wants on an individual basis, the behaviors, which is the sum up of the context, the screens I have, the time I have, and all those other different parameters we have seen before, with the experiential technology are really the mechanics that combined together are able to deliver the ultimate engagement, which at the end of the day is quite easy, is to be meaningful, relevant, and provide what I need as an individual physician at the right time in the right way. And there's, of course, a lot of work to do, but that's basically a fascinating challenge because it's incredibly multidisciplinary as probably never before. And that's a little bit to try to give you a little bit of the behind the scenes, what we are struggling with and coming up with. So with this, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Roberto.